Welcome to another episode of Ask the Zamboni Experts. I'm your host, Doug Peters. Along with me today from the Zamboni Company is Marty Elliott. Today, we're going to be discussing topics with Pete Carlson, Senior Director of Operations and Programming for the National Sports Center and Super Rink in Blaine, Minnesota. Welcome, Pete. How you doing?
Great. Things are great. Thanks.
Good. We're glad to have you here. Pete, could you tell us a little bit about your path to the Super Rink and how you got started in the wonderful world of ice?
Yeah, I know it's maybe a little bit different. I think ice rink managers find their career path probably a lot of different ways. There isn't really one set way to go to college and go to school for ice rink management. And I was definitely on that path. I'm a physical education teacher by trade. I went to school for that. Got teaching, in schools and substitute teaching, trying to get a full-time job, coached high school hockey and things like that in Minnesota. But oddly enough, my wife wanted to go down to the University of Wisconsin and get her PhD in education. So, of course, like a good husband, I would follow her, and she's smart and all that kind of stuff. So I'm following her instead of her following me. But as I was waiting to, possibly get a job teaching, I drove past a building in Verona, Wisconsin. Looked like an ice arena. I'd been a Zamboni driver for, many years before that in college and working hockey camps at Heartland Hockey Camp. I drove the Zamboni and things like that. So I knew I could get a job there and went in, and the building, the walls just weren't up yet, and found a guy and asked if they needed any Zamboni drivers. And they said, well, we need a manager. And I go, well, geez, I don't know if I can do that. So I went home and told my wife that they need a manager. And she says, well, did you say yes? And I go, well, no, I don't know. I've never managed a building before. I'm a phy-ed teacher. She's like, take it. Just say yes. And I'm like, well, okay, go back. And that was the start of it. 1994, I was hired as the manager of the Eagles Nest Ice Arena. And from then on, it was on-the-job training, learning ice install, how to drive, how to work, and operate the compressor room. And then it went to the concession stand and accounting and ice scheduling and ice sports programming and learning to work with an association and customers coming in and out. And it was one of the best 3 years I had. That's
awesome, Pete. Now, you've on your tagline, and this is something because I've gotten old and my memory's not what it used to be. You've got 30 years that the National Sports Center has been around. Now, that's not all ice. Can you tell us what the history is of the National Sports Center and when it got ice?
Sure. The National Sports Center has been around for 30 years, and what it is, it's a state entity in Minnesota. Kind of unique in the operation. It's under the umbrella of the Minnesota Amateur Sports Commission. So the Sports Commission does different things through amateur sports to bring in economic impact to the state of Minnesota through tax spending. The National Sports Center is the largest of their, businesses and whatnot. Giants Ridge in Bowabic is one. The National Volleyball Center in Rochester, Minnesota is one. The National Hockey Center in St. Cloud. Those are MASC kind of facilities. They help get things started, and then the operations takes over. And here at the National Sports Center, we're the same way. We're a large facility, 600 acres of land. We've got 56 soccer fields, 18 holes of golf, now the 8 ice rinks, an indoor soccer facility, 10,000 seat stadium of artificial turf soccer. We're the home of the Minnesota United professional soccer team, and 144 bed dormitory, full hospitality. I mean, we've kind of got it all. It's a great place. Then in '98, actually in '97, the idea was to build ice rinks, and we added 4 sheets of ice that opened October of '98. And that's basically when I came onto the scene here at the National Sports Center.
Great. And I know I've had the opportunity to play the golf course up there. That maybe you could expand just a little bit about that, because I think that that's a pretty incredible golf course from the standpoint of multiple tees, making the course playable in competitive, you could, as a hack like I am, I could compete with a really good golfer because I'm playing on a different set of tees, and maybe expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of the only public PGA design courses in the state. And when the course was being added at the National Sports Center, again, we're a youth facility. Minnesota amateur sports was a big part of this. So when it was designed, like you said, there's 6 or 7 tee boxes on every hole. The 18-hole course will play 3,600 yards from the front tee boxes and all the way back to 7,100 yards from the tips. So with that type of opportunity, it really allows youth to participate. And, you know, if you go to a course and you see some young kids in front of you, you're like, oh no, this is going to be a 4 or 5 hour round. Well, if they play the proper tee boxes, they're moving just as fast as you are as maybe a pretty avid golfer. So that's been something, just the design of the course is neat. Something else we do is we work with the First Tee program, and youth have priority of tee times over adults. Doesn't mean adults can't play it, but youth have the priority. So adults can't make tee times. They're up to 3 days in advance, and youth are up to 7 days in advance or before that. So we really want youth to get out and play. We've got a fantastic driving range. We've got an 18-hole real bent grass green putting course. It's not miniature golf by any means. It's real cut holes with tee boxes, and there's par 2s and par 3s and par 4s that you go around this putting area, and it's fantastic. And in fact, the golf course is so nice. For the last 2 years now, we've been the play-in course or the qualifying course for the new 3M Open, which is on the PGA Tour now.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm familiar with, being formerly of Minnesota, when the facility went up, you had to bring together a bunch of different communities because you had different organizations that assumed, I don't know if it's ownership, if that's the proper word, of each ice rink. They had different. How difficult is that, or how easy is that to maintain the cooperation between the different communities and their programs?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think we're a really good example of how government can work together with different cities and actually other high schools, youth hockey associations to come in one. I mean, we're in a part of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, 30 minutes north of both of those. There's a lot of hockey, there's a lot of rivalries, and here this concept of bringing rival cities, in a sense, in sport to come under one roof. That alone was kind of difficult. But the real reason this thing worked and it happened, it really started off with girls hockey was growing in Minnesota so much. In Title IX, that law of equal time for boys and girls on the ice was in jeopardy. You know, the boys had all the ice, and now all of a sudden the girls are coming in and they're not getting the equal time. So cities and ice arenas had to make some decisions in Minnesota, and we're just 4 of those rinks. The Mighty Ducks, a program with the state of Minnesota, helped ice arenas be built in Minnesota. It's called the Mighty Ducks program. So how it worked here in our area, the city of Coon Rapids, the city of Blaine, Ramsey County, they all had ice arenas. Centennial High School had an ice rink on their campus for Circle Pines and Lionel Lake, but they all had their single ice sheet. So instead of those cities or arenas spending $5 million potentially to add a second sheet, we put a program together that just asked for $500,000. Then that got matched by a Mighty Duck grant program of another $500,000. So in a short story is, for each of these cities or counties, instead of spending $5 million in tax dollars, they only had to get $500,000 to us. We had a total of $2 million of startup money, and then we bonded another $10 million for a $12 million project. There's rights and obligations, And the word ownership is in some of the language because we want those cities and those associations to feel like there is ownership here. So we put their name, we put their colors. They're a big part of the success of it. But we operate it, we program it, and we have to run this thing three ways. There are no city dollars, there's no state dollars that go into our operation in the ice arena or the National Sports Center. So we have to pay back that $10 million through ice sales, hospitality, and sponsorship. Now, if we didn't do that, there are some clauses we can go back to the cities and ask for help. But knock on wood, and even going through COVID right now, we've never had to go back and ask for that. And we've only got 3 years left on our agreement of a 25-year deal. So I think we're going to be able to make it.
That's awesome, Pete. You basically threw me a softball for the next question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've got some great staff there, and over the years, you've had people that have come and cut their teeth in the industry.
Yeah.
You got that famous Brodzinski family that that does some work for you. What's it like getting people and staffing up for a building the size that your project is?
Yeah, it's been not knowing what this industry does, but the ability to get into ice rink management, if you love the game, and it's ice sports too. It can be figure skating, it can be hockey, it can be just being around it, whether you're a player or you just like to see it. To be at an ice rink is a great place to be. And I've been very fortunate to have some great people working here at the Super Rink. I've got, in 22 years of being here, I've gone through quite a few managers. You talked about cutting their teeth. I want to say I have 12 or 13 people that have started out as rink techs or drivers, cleaning staff, that are now managing their own. They're the top person in the ice rink. And to name a couple of them, one of my first hires, the first hire I had was Brad Telberg. And he went on to manage a few different ice arenas, and now he's at Brooklyn Center and Brooklyn Park as the assistant park and rec director, but also in the rink operation. Eric Sutherland is at Andover Ice Arena, the top person. He was one of my managers. Brandon Radicke at PMP Arena in Pittsburgh. He runs one of the largest NHL arenas and pristine Lemieux Center. Brandon's one of our guys. So I can go on and on. We've got 12, 13 people that have started in the lowest level of just saying, hey, I want to work at the ice rink in some capacity, that over time have learned. And that's a tribute to the National Sports Center and what we can offer, but other ice rinks as well. We're doing the same thing, but we have a lot of opportunity here to do different jobs, whether it be in the operations, the programming, and or other sports. And then you said the Brodzinski family. I mean, if you're in hockey, Brodzinskis have been in California. They've been with the Kings and the San Jose Sharks. And oddly enough, Johnny Brodzinski, Michael, Easton, and Bryce, all four of them are at the rink today getting a little skate in. The price is right. Kathy, their mother, and is our administrative assistant here. So I think she finds a way to get the boys on the ice for a pretty good rate.
She sneaks them in the back door. Tell her that they would have all fared better had they been wearing the orange and black of the Anaheim Ducks. I pushed hard for that, but I didn't have the control when it came to the draft room.
Right.
Pete, with 8 sheets of ice that you've got there, what do you find are the challenges? Because each ice rink is going to be its own breathing organism. Are you finding that there's differences from one side of the building to the other, one end of the building to the other? What kind of challenges do you face with that?
Well, one thing on that question that comes to mind right away is the front 4 rinks were built in a certain way, and then the rinks 5, 6, 7, and 8 were built another way. So 1 through 4 are kind of in a circle, I guess I would say, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8 are in a straight line down the way, and that was purposeful at the time. The challenge we have now is it's a long ways from the front rinks to the rink 1 to rink 8. And when you're operating a tournament, you're like, holy cow, I got to go all the way back there. We designed it that way. It has its pros, it has its cons. We designed it the way it is right now because we thought we were going to have ice in 5, 6, 7, and 8, maybe for 4 months, right during the winter season. And then we built tall roofs or high ceilings, and because we were going to play lacrosse and soccer in there. We haven't taken the ice out of rinks 5 and 6 since the day we put it in. And rinks 7 and 8 only come out because we didn't put heat under the floor. So we do some dry floor June, July, and August. That's it. But if we were to go back and had the crystal ball, we would have designed 5, 6, 7, and 8 exactly like we did 1 through 4. But we thought we were just going to add a little bit, a group buying ice on rinks 1 through 4 and wanted to add a tournament to rink 5. Okay, that's fine. So now people could still get in rinks 6, 7, and 8 easily without having to go through the tournament, let's say. Heck, every request is coming right now. They want 8 sheets of ice or 6 sheets of ice. So that's a good thing that we're operating that way. But that's one thing. I would just say the design is a little bit. But other than that, we're kind of a 2-sheet facility, just expanded, right? So a lot of 2 sheets around the country. One driver takes care of 2 sheets, and that's what we do. So we've got 4 drivers on, right? We just operate each 2-sheet facility kind of the same, if that makes sense at all, that like a normal 2-sheet facility would do.
Sure. I want to toss this over to Marty to ask some questions about technology that you guys have jumped into, and then maybe we'll get back to when you went from fossil fuel machines to electrics. But Marty's our specialist on level ice product, and I know that you guys have got that on a few of your machines. Marty, why don't you take it away and ask some questions about level ice?
Thanks, Doug. Yeah, Pete, sustainability aspect of your facility, going green, the energy efficiencies, coming back to what you originally spoke about with your funding and how that applies to operating costs. You brought in level ice, you've gone electric. I know Doug will talk more about electric on the ice resurfacer and the edgers. Yeah. I guess my biggest question is, and I was fortunate enough to come in and do some training with your staff. I think it's pad 5 and 6 that we initially put it in. Have you folks been able to do any sort of M&V measurement verifications concerning pre-installation to post-installation as far as identifying savings?
I wish I could say yes and have a bunch of numbers for you and come back with that one, but no, we haven't. But I do know that just how things work and operate with the machine, our ice levels are better. Our ice levels are consistently thinner, right? We're not building up as high in the corners. We're not building up in other areas. That is happening. I will say this, that the drivers that we have are fighting to get on rinks 5 and 6 to drive on their shifts, because that's where, those 2 machines have that. We don't have it on the others yet, partially just cost is an issue for us right now. But as we get new machines and we continue to go forward, we'll add that feature to these machines. I know you don't have to do it at the start. You can add it onto an existing machine, but no, we love it. It's great. It's helped our operations, and again, staff time of edging has gone down a lot. So there's a lot of ways that yes, we're saving some money and we've got a better product for our customers. I just don't have the exact amount of what that is.
Yeah, based on historical data, I mean, I know from facilities that have had the system for a while, they've actually identified that their plant is actually, specifically the compressors, their run times are a little lower due to the fact of you're carrying less ice. Talk about the operators, because you do have a lot of operators in your facility fighting over 5 and 6 pads. But what are the positives? What are the negatives, challenges they may have gone through to adapt from traditional hand crank to the automated level ice system?
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. Everything has probably pros and cons a little bit. The pro is that they know they can jump on that machine. We have to do our work to have it set up and have it set right, and that's our daytime, full-time guys are doing that. And then when our part-time staff gets in on nights and weekends, as long as that is set up, they're pretty much back up, go forward, drop the conditioner and go. It's about that simple. That's the reason they like to be there. Now, just to say, if something isn't right, if the laser isn't, adding up, or it's not reading the conditioner, and something goes wrong, and we have to get it to switch to hand for whatever reason, there's a little issue, and that's technology in every way, right? If the Wi-Fi goes down inside an ice arena right now, forget it. I mean,
yes,
you can't get. I mean, we kind of stop with. And I'll change it up a little bit. If we lose our locker room assignment board that's digitized, people think there's no ice here anymore. They're like, oh, we don't have ice, we're out of here. It's but we don't want to lose those things that make our job better, like the level. But when it goes away, it hurts a little bit, and it's a little more difficult.
Yeah, that's a story I know Doug hears a lot, specifically turning into technology with technology such as level ice. Sometimes we get complacent. We recognize that as a supplier and an OEM, and I'm sure Doug shared it with you and your staff. But what we've done now is the resources we have on our website with all the level ice training videos that would be duplicate of what I did when I was there on site there. I want to say 2 years. I think it's 2 years now. And that specific situation where their system has gone down, they got to go back to a hand crank. I mean, that video walks them through step by step that they can have it off and hand crank back on and ready to rock and roll in 20 minutes. So that's great feedback that you're sharing with us, so that we can make sure we're managing you correctly. Let me turn it back over to Doug, and perhaps take it a step further into electrical capacity.
Thanks, Marty. Pete, being from Minnesota, I still stay up on top of the news, and being in the job that I've been in for, it's 33 years now. The state of Minnesota and its air quality standards is a big push. Was there any reason beyond trying to get away from the hassles of running a fossil fuel in your building that drove you guys to make the decision to go to electric machines when you did?
Right. Well, sure. I think air quality is one that's an easy one to talk about, and as long as you can, testing is an issue. We've got staff. Okay, let's just say we've got great staff, right? We've already discussed that. But some of our staff is young. Some of them are green. They haven't been in the business that much, and just to have them find where the broom goes and how to use the broom and dustpan is when it's in the right spot and it was used, we are clapping our hands, high-fiving. Now you put the type of technology to save lives, to run your air quality equipment properly, from your dehumidification to testing. So we're having part-time people potentially test. There's a lot of risk with that. So battery machines come out. This is going to save that piece. Well, it did so much more than that. We don't have to test air like we had to before with the combustible engine. We're also not bringing in, we're bringing in outside air, but we don't have to bring in as much, and we don't have to condition that air as much, right? So in the wintertime, when we're bringing in 0-degree temperature air, we don't have to heat it. And in the summertime, it's like 98, say 82% dew points are out there, and it's hot and humid. We don't have to cool it and dehumidify it. There's a tremendous savings in doing that. Those were all good, but I think it was the technology of the battery that it finally got to the point where we could run with it, right? Like if the technology came out as it is today, 10 years before that or 5 years before that, we would have all been buying it anyways. But there was some thought of, can it last an entire Saturday? Can it last a Saturday and Sunday? What happens if it does go down? What type of maintenance does it take? And all those things got better, and I would say actually quite quickly, that now it's pretty automatic to say, you'd have to find some ways to talk yourself out of not going battery as opposed to the other way of going fossil fuel. So we're really happy with that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think that faced that question quite a bit early on in the 552's life, which has been out since 1990. people had concerns. It kind of prove me, show me kind of thing, and it has.
Yep.
And we thank you guys for your help in testing a year ago, I think it was, with the lithium ion, and that's become quite popular. We're seeing a take rate of that's north of 90% on lead acid, which surprised me when I was asked to do my forecast to see what it would be. It was, I think, I can probably convince 75% of the people to go. And you tell them that they take exactly what you've talked about, is take the maintenance aspect out of it, that nobody has to measure the batteries for specific gravity or open circuit voltage. They don't have to water them.
Right.
You don't have to worry about, are they being watered enough or are they being watered too much? So we thank you for your guys' help in that, and the rinks in Minnesota that are getting the lithium ions can thank you as well for that. And Pete, you've also adapted to the Easy 3 edger, which is the electric edger. How is that? Because I think you guys had the corded ones for a while, and it took a little bit of trial with us to jump on the Easy 3 bandwagon. Has that worked out well for you as well?
Well, I play the honest card here. I'm an honest guy, so I haven't pushed one around yet myself, Doug. Okay, but my guys are not coming in my office saying, "Hey, we need something else," right? So I got to show my cards a little bit. I wish I could say I was out there doing it and pushing it around, but no, everybody likes it. It's working well, and again, I go off of when Ryan Heverin is known in the business. He's with the Olympics. He's done the Olympics. He's been doing NHL games, and he brings back what the suggestions are in the industry and says this is what we need and this is what we'd like. And I'm trusting our guys on those types of things, and they like it very much.
So it's kind of like a happy wife, happy life. If you're not hearing any complaints from the staff, all is good. Well, we're glad to be a part of that. You had mentioned something about seasonal differences in your building, and again, growing up in Minnesota, I've been hotter in 85-degree weather in Minnesota than 120 in Phoenix. What kind of challenges are you faced with in your building, especially with the size of it, to try to maintain ice in your buildings?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, we struggle at times. We've had problems with when the dehumidification goes down on those hot days, and it goes down in one rink and not the other, because we're fortunate to have 4 units for the front 4 rinks. In the back rinks, we call 5, 6, 7, 8 the back, it's 1 unit per 2. So in the summertime, let's just take the front 4 rinks. If we do lose something, it only negatively impacts 1 of the 3. That's the good news. But I'll tell you, when it happens, it's not good. Hockey players, those skaters, generally can skate on anything. They're not okay. They're not happy with soft ice, or they're not happy with wet ice. But if it were to happen, they can go. Figure skaters, a little bit different, and rightfully so. They're on one skate most of the time while they're on the ice, so their conditions need to be a little better. But we're fortunate in this way, I would say, is yes, we're a large facility, 8 ice sheets, but generally each ice sheet throughout the day has the same user on it. Meaning, like, if it's a hockey tournament, they're taking all 8. If it's a figure skating event, they're taking 6 or 8 sheets. We were going to have ISI World Figure Skatings here. Unfortunately, it got canceled. But they were going to take, the front 4 rinks every hour. So there isn't a big difference of the user seeing something that potentially is wrong in the back of the house, right? So it's generally the same. But we've been fortunate. We've got good equipment. We've got high quality equipment. We've got great mechanical people on site and people that we can call. And we really have to be on our toes like every other ice rink in these conditions when it's too cold or too hot. I'll just say this, there aren't any more nights where you're listening to a rainstorm and the thunder and you're seeing lightning, you're just laying there loving it. Like, I haven't had that in 25 years. We're like, uh-oh, are we going to lose power? Are the compressors going to go down? I would like to have some of those nice rainy nights where you just listen in comfort, but not in our business.
No, there's always a potential headache just waiting to smack you upside the head. You talked about the ISI and it having to change their championship event till next year because of COVID. What other events have you been forced to deal with? And I know you guys are busy. You guys do a walleye chop tournament. I've talked about that a little bit with you. Maybe expand a little bit in some of the things that maybe you've had to push off till next year, or maybe you've been able to reposition later in the year when this CV thing slows down a little bit.
Right. I think the big part of it is that, we had some national and world events scheduled. We had USA Women's Girls and Women's National set for April. They canceled, no reschedule. ISI World Figure Skating Championships in July canceled, tried to reschedule for Labor Day weekend. Thought we were going to get it to happen, but then this just kind of continued, now canceled. As of right now, not going to happen. Other events, this hit during the time, and it is somewhat important to remember, it hit during the time of when our USA Hockey and US Figure Skating and ISI events mainly are not happening, right? It's the off season of time. March, April, May, June, July, August is where we're at right now. So those are times of the year that ice arenas are relying on a lot of private business to come into their facilities. And I know some groups and some people will, I don't know, maybe not talk nicely about those businesses. Maybe they think they're making too much money, or they think they're being too aggressive and skating too much and things like that. There's philosophies, right, all over the place. We as ice rink managers, I always say we can't be in the philosophy business. If you want to skate backwards for an hour, it's $210 an hour to do it. If you want to, whatever it is, we're not going to dictate what it is. We think pretty much all ice sales are good. But these private businesses rely on our facilities to be open. They can't do business somewhere else. If our rink is closed and the rink next to us is closed and the rink is closed in the next state, their chances of not being in business in 2021 potentially are hindered. And that's 21, 22, 23, 24. Like, these businesses want to keep going. And like a restaurant, like a hotel, like a gas station, they don't open for 3 months, 4 months in 1 year. They may not come back. So we worked very closely with our groups coming in, talk to them, I would say weekly, if not daily, of updates of what's happening in the state of Minnesota. We had a direct connect with the governor's office to have a little heads up, and we shared that information with other ice rink managers in the state to try to give some guidance of when will we be open. And there were several groups that were like, nope, we're canceling, we're not going to reschedule. But we just said, hang in there, we think a change is coming. Well, the change came in June. Fortunately, some of our soccer events, which are 500 team soccer tournaments and 1,000 team soccer tournaments in July called USA Cup, that tournament didn't happen. It opened up weekends at the ice arena that we could operate. So the April and May tournaments that did not happen, well, that would be close to 8 events. I think we got 6 of those back in June and July. So we're really only down about 2 big events. So that was helpful to us, and it was helpful to those private users as well, private businesses as well.
You've got a now 22-year-old facility, or at least some of the rinks are 22 years old. What challenges are you faced with in trying to keep it up to that gold standard and keep it to what you've built your customers to expect? You've set such a high standard. What are you guys doing to make sure that they still have that same experience as they did when they walked into the facility for the first time?
Right. Well, that's a hot topic right now. I would say that anybody coming to the NSC Super Rink for the first time or something, they still come in and get a wow factor. You know, they come in and the sliding doors open and they see 32 locker rooms, assignments for 32 locker rooms, and rink 8 is down this hallway, and you know, then they go upstairs and they see they overlook 4 rinks, and the Hat Trick Cafe area is super cool. But for the groups that have been here for, you know, youth associations, they're in that association for 6, 7, 8 years, then they time out, right, and they're gone. But if you've been in here 8, 9, 10 years, you're looking at this place going, yeah, she's getting a little, you know, the colors aren't quite as bright, and the walls don't shine as much, and the lighting isn't as good as it used to be, because you get used to it, right? So we're in that right now. We are planning, oddly enough, 2023 is we're going to create new agreements. That'll be 25 years that we will have this facility. Our current consortium members. We want to renew our current consortium members with some new rules and guidelines, but that comes with a price tag, and we want to put $12 million back into this facility. About 6 of it will be in the compressor room, and with new floors and boards. But if we just spend that alone, it won't be enough, because ice rinks these days aren't being built just as little metal buildings anymore, right? Like, they have all the new technology, the lights, the sounds, the warm areas, flat screen TVs, places to sit on a chair, a table, or a couch. These amenities have to be there. So we're looking at all that, and we're going to put that stuff in with you know, $6 million in the compressor room, boards, floor, like I said, and then dress this place up a little bit.
Pete, how has the business changed and evolved at your facility from the 22 years that it's been open? What are you doing the same? What are you doing differently than you were at the onset?
Yeah, I mean, if you're probably sitting out looking at ice sports programs, and if you're just taking it, you probably don't see a big difference. But there has been, at least here in Minnesota. When I first started here, we had 4 rinks, associations. We're doing a lot of practicing, a lot of pre skates before their season, a lot of post skates after their season. That's gone away a little bit. We used to have leagues. You know, we'd have 150 teams in our spring and summer leagues that would get 2 practices and 8 games, let's say. We sold the majority of our ice that way. I think the big change right now is a new way to skate, or a new way to practice. And I'm kind of hockey specific here, and I don't mean to leave out broomball and figure skating and those things, but it's really the hockey market is the one that I see the largest change in. And that is, I don't know if there's as many kids skating today as there were 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, but the number of hours are still being purchased, right? So I think a group of kids, it's called AAA hockey, and sometimes that's a good word. Some people take it as a bad word. It's good for ice rinks right now. We're selling a lot of ice. So what the AAA market has done off season has gotten a group of teams together. Now they practice 2, 3, 4 times a week, and then we or private businesses created tournaments, and then they go to those tournaments. And a lot of people call it checkbook hockey and negative tones to it, but here's the thing. It is what it is. Kids are on the ice. They're playing. Are they playing too much? I don't know. Once again, I'm not going to be the one to say. I've got my philosophy. I've got my kids, and I know how much they played, and that's between us. But I know the rinks are busy. And one thing I'll say on the change, it used to be only a few ice arenas were open in the summertime, right? I mean, it was, some rinks would go down and they were open 6 months a year and they'd shut down for the summer. A lot of those rinks now, there are 22 ice sheets within 15 minutes of the super rink. They're all open 12 months a year, and they're all busy 12 months a year. And that's just in that small footprint where I am. You can continue down to Rochester and up to Grand Rapids and to Duluth and those things. So I think the big change is kids are skating more. I'm not going to say that's a negative at all. They're just doing it in a few different ways.
I'm going to ask you to put on your great Karnak hat, and by that I'm showing my age. I know you're
Mhm.
not that old to
I
maybe
remember Johnny Carson.
There you go. You're probably only because your parents told you about him. What do you think the marketplace might look like in 10, 20, or 30 years? And I'll jump in just a little bit. I know that one of the things that's changed immensely in the time since I left Minnesota, and you talked about it earlier, is girls hockey. Do you
Mhm.
see that to continue to grow, and what other things you might see change or continue on at a much bigger pace going forward?
Well, I think ice rinks and park and recreation departments and hockey businesses and things like that. It's always just keeping your finger on the pulse of what direction is it going? What is it going? I don't know. I do know we want to keep this facility ice. We don't want to go into the indoor soccer market or the indoor lacrosse market in an ice arena. So I think we have to be aware of it. I think girls hockey, we need to continue to promote that sport, continue to promote boys and girls figure skating. It's huge. Do you know our figure skating department, NSC figure skating department, rents about 2,000 hours of ice a year? Okay, so, and I've talked a lot about hockey, and I want to put a plug in. 2,000 hours. And a single sheet ice rink would be happy to have 2,000 hours sold in their single sheet facility. I mean, 3,000 would be better, but 2,000 hours isn't bad. Our one program of figure skating is doing that. It's huge. It's enormous. So we need to continue to just share with our schools, share with our communities that the ice sports that we offer are a good place to be, a fun place to be, a safe place to be. And if you pick it up, it's a lifelong activity that you can do. And I think if we keep promoting those things, what they'll be doing on the ice, I can't say for sure. But as long as they're playing, participating some way, I think we'll be able to be in business and provide a nice opportunity for people.
It sounds like Jane Shaver deserves a raise if she's the one generating that many hours of ice.
I've always said when Jane leaves, I leave, because she does a ton here, and she's got a great group of people too working with her and for her.
Yeah, she's a great person. I know you got a great staff with that she's put together, and usually it's a sign of good management when you've got a lot of good people underneath you.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the training center? And this didn't get put on the list, but I was there years ago when it was inaugurated, the Brooks Dryland
Sure.
Training Center. Is that still going on? And if so, how big a portion is that to your skaters in your building?
Right. The Herb Brooks Training Center, fantastic facility. I'll tell you, it's kind of a business 101. You think just because you build it, they'll come. That did not happen with this facility. Here we have what I would say one of the nicest and largest dryland training centers maybe anywhere. And if you've seen it, Doug, it is nice. And here we've got, unfortunately, because of Herb's death, we've got his name on it, and one of the most powerful names in hockey. And then we have a board that has tons of good names. Larry Hendrickson, Dean Talafus, Total Hockey was a group that was going to come in, and this should be an automatic home run. This is going to fill no matter what. It did not happen. And I caution people a little bit on that just because you're going to build a nice center, it's going to automatically fill, and that isn't the case. So they operated for about 2 or 3 years, and then didn't quite get it to fill, and then we had to go out to a private group of Showcase Hockey to give it a shot, and they had a ton of kids in their off-season program. We're going to say, hey, they've got so many kids, we'll just build in dryland training to their hockey program, right? Well, think about it. How many kids in the pyramid of hockey want to train off ice? Not many, like just the little tip of the pyramid. That's it. So here we're jamming down dryland training, jumping up and down, lifting weights, shooting pucks, all this to kids that just don't even want to do that. They want to go play hockey, and they love to play hockey. but we were forcing this down there. So then we've got to a third group, and I'll give them a little plug called FIT Hockey, Flexible Hockey Individual Training. Justin Johnson owns that. He's a former golfer. I think he played on some national teams. Great guy, creates FIT Hockey, and it's individualized to sign up and to go on the ice. And here's a big part. They added ice to it. So now you're skating in the ice programs and then supplementing some dry land is how it should be of doing things that you want to do particular. But if you ever get to the NSC Super Rink, you've got to go look at the Herb Brooks Dryland Training Center. It's fantastic. The foundation is still strong. John Cherney is the executive director of that. He's doing programming in the inner cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and some other suburbs, just doing a fantastic job with the foundation.
That's awesome, Pete. Yeah, I was very fortunate. It was up there a few years back when it was the inauguration. I got to meet former Governor Wendy Anderson, and then the gentleman who was the Republican governor. Why can I not remember his name? The young guy that was the governor at the time. And I think there was
Tim Plenty.
Yeah, Plenty. Sorry. Yep, that's the guy. And I think they might have had 2 or 3 governors there for that opening, which was very interesting. And I'm a huge Herb Brooks disciple, so anytime his name's on something, we certainly love to support that. And I've been lucky enough to meet his daughter, Kelly Brooks Paradise, who I think is on that board. Just great. So I'm hoping that will continue to grow and that people will find the opportunity to utilize it, because it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
One thing I want to go into is there's a bit of friendly competition, I think, between you and your facility. I shouldn't say you personally, but your facility, and there's a facility out in Marlboro, Mass, as to who's got more ice sheets. Is that something? I think they don't have full size surfaces, but they're up to, I think, 10 sheets now. Is it? And where do you guys with that? Are you going to get to 12 real quick so that we can sell a few more machines to you?
Oh man, there was a time we were in that competitive range of saying, yeah, we might just have to do it and bite the bullet. But no, I don't think we're there. I think we still are looking at quality facilities and whatnot. And to add 2 right now would put a dent in what we do and what we're doing very well. I do know about the Marlboro Arena, and I think we've got fun competition with each other. We've talked to each other at NARS and ISI conferences and expos and things like that. So everything's cool. We're okay with them. I think they're okay with us. I do have to say that if you add up the square footage of ice, okay, this is how competitive I am. We have 4 Olympic and 4 NHL. They have 8 NHL and 2 studio rinks to give them 10 rinks. But I believe if you add up the square footage, we still have more square footage of ice than anyone under one roof. So I'll just leave it at that. But that's a hard tagline to put on a brochure.
I think the best way to settle the tie, who's bigger than the other, just take a look at the hours on the Zambonis.
Okay, there you go.
Well, yeah, that might be a poor job by the salesman in the States, Marty, because if there's too many hours on the machines in Blaine, the sales guy's not doing a good enough job. So no, it's a friendly competition, Pete, and I know that Wes Tuttle out there, when I talk to him about it, it's always, they're curious as to what you're doing. He's curious, as to what's going on in comparison. And it's amazing to me. I know up in Canada, Marty, you might see it a little bit more with Canland, where they've got multi-pad complexes. But in the States, you guys are 2 sights to behold based on how much ice and how busy both of you guys are. I mean, it's awesome to see that, and it's great for us for business. So
I'm glad we're not neighbors. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I think that it's a good location. I don't know if they'll get one out on the West Coast, out here in the new state of the new state of hockey, as I'm referring to it. I think I'm going to trademark that title in
Yeah.
California with all the NHL teams and AHL teams that we have. But I can't let you go without getting on the topic of food. That's kind of like my kind of thing. I'm a bit of a foodie. I want to know what your go-to food is, and are you a big fan of White Castle?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of White Castle. I've certainly had it at certain hours of the day. We'll just say when. I won't say when that is, but that has happened. But I guess if I were to have to give you my favorite food, it would go right to Mexican.
There you
Hot
go.
and spicy.
And where do you go for that, Pete? In the land of lutefisk and lefse?
Well, I'm not picky. That's the good part of me liking it so much. So I can do a walking taco right out of the Hattrick Cafe and feel pretty good about it. But there's nothing better than getting on a plane and heading down to Mexico and eating it right at the resort and having the all-inclusive. That's where I'd like to have it the most. But that's a few times in between. So I'm everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. Tacos, Mexican food, it doesn't matter.
Come on out here and I'll cook you up some tacos and I'll let you sample my wife's salsa. And she
All right.
makes that to the point where my tongue sweats, which I totally enjoy that. So
I'll take you up on that.
great. Marty, do you have any other questions you'd like to throw at Pete?
Nope. Great session. Great feedback. Great to hear Pete's stories and the experience and what's going on with his National Sports Center. I look forward to seeing what the footprint looks like in the next 24, 36 months, Pete, and hopefully have an opportunity to come back to your facility and work with I know the one Ryan's left. I know Ryan Ahern's still there, but I know your other Ryan has gone south down to Houston, I believe. But no, I look forward to seeing what's going to happen to that footprint in the next 36 months.
Yeah, Ryan Qualley, we lost another good one. He's in Phoenix, actually, and he's working with the Phoenix guys down there. And our next big project is we'll have one of the largest indoor domes going over our stadium field that'll open up this November. So you'll see that if you come up. It'll be up in the wintertime and down in the summer. But that's one project we're doing right now.
Look forward to it. Back to you, Doug.
Great. Thanks, Marty. Pete, I want to thank you very much for spending time with us today on this podcast. We want to thank everyone for listening in to another episode of Ask the Zamboni Experts podcast. Have a question for one of our experts or an idea for a future episode? Please email your questions or requests to info@zamboni.com. For more info and additional podcast episodes, please visit zamboni.com/podcast or search Ask the Zamboni Experts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. This is Doug Peters talking with Marty Elliott and Pete Carlson, wishing you a nice day.